Hi, I'm Kenny Brown from Kenny Brown Performance, and we're here to talk about our latest suspension, the fact that the Kenny Brown brand is back after a 5-year medical hiatus. We're currently based in Chicago. All our products are manufactured right in the Chicago area, so it's all American made. Very high quality, which is something over the years I've always stressed is quality. My background in racing, if it's good quality, it's not going to be a problem later. So everything that we do is kind of based off of a high quality model and customer friendly. The Kenny Brown brand is kind of a legacy brand within the Mustang segment, which started back in '86 when I took the Saleen program from dead start to 4 national championships in 2 years. And from there, we just got into the Mustang market. Mustangs just started showing up at our front door. And we developed a lot of good quality products based off of my racing background. And the thing that made the program different is with our program, I built the cars first, and then the parts flow out of the car program into the parts program, where a lot of people will be a parts warehouse, then take the parts and build the cars. So we were actually application driven more so than anybody else, plus the technology that I brought from racing. And then in 2005, I had some serious health issues, took a 5-year medical hiatus, and there was so much demand for the Kenny Brown products that we started coming back, and so we just now bringing the brand back. The parts just got introduced last year with my latest AGS suspension system. AGS stands for Advanced Geometry Suspensions, and this is Gen 4. Gen 1 was in the Saleen cars. We introduced Gen 3, 3.0 at the 2001 SEMA, and now we're into Gen 4 for the newest Mustangs, and it's by far the best because it's technology driven. It comes from the car program. And we don't just change springs and shocks, which most people do. I actually physically go in, look at the suspension geometry. I know what the Mustang needs to do to make it work, and I re-engineer every product. Re-engineers to geometry to make the maximum tire contact, which is where the grip is for either performance driving on the street, for track days, or full racing. It's all about that grip. But that's what kind of makes our suspensions different. Is that we start with changing the geometry, so we've got good contact patch. And the only real difference between our street suspension and race suspension would be springs and shocks. As you go up on spring rate and shock dampening, the car becomes more precise. You can use stickier tires. So the guy can actually start with a street suspension, and just by changing springs and shocks and maybe brakes and tires, all of a sudden he's got a full blown track suspension. So that's what really makes the Kenny Brown suspension AGS system so different, is the geometry that's in it. Because starting with Gen 1, every generation has been an improvement on the previous with added features. And with the newest Mustang suspension, it's the best I've had to work with. I mean, the handling is phenomenal. It just doesn't get any better than that. The Mustang market actually is pretty good right now. What's really invigorated it has been the introduction of the Boss Mustang. It's the best performance street car I think Ford has ever put out. It's a fabulous package for us to start with. In fact, the majority of our suspensions are going to guys who are buying Boss Mustangs and taking them to the track. So that has kind of changed the dynamic. The Coyote motor, for sure, in the Mustang segment is a huge leap forward. We introduced that in 2011. I mean, it's the best motor I think Ford's ever built. It makes power. It lives. It does everything it's supposed to. In my car on track with a full headers and open exhaust system, it makes wonderful sounds and revs to 8,000 RPMs. You know, for something that comes right out of the box, it doesn't get much better than that. And of course, the Shelbys have always been a big segment, but they're not really performance handling cars. Our second biggest market for suspensions right now is the Shelby guys, because right out of the box, the Shelby is a big, fast, tire melting monster, but they don't stop and they don't turn. So guys are picking up our suspension for the Shelbys just to put some handling dynamic into the package to make it a little bit more manageable. When I talk about the technology of the Kenny Brown AGS 4.0 suspension system, it's all engineered around, I tell people it's 40 years in development, or 40 years in the making, 25 years in development. And by knowing 25 years with a Mustang platform, I know exactly how the car works and how it doesn't work. And it's classic American pony car. It's got a big lump in the front, no weight in the back, which makes them really fast in a straight line. They don't like to stop and turn. So realizing that, and from racing, the way I re-engineer the geometry of the suspension is to mitigate the weaknesses and leverage the strengths. Strength is obviously power, straight line speed, weakness the corner. So by changing the geometry, first under braking, we put a lot of anti-dive and anti-squat. So this suspension will actually out-brake just about anything else on the market. In racing, braking is your best opportunity to make a pass. So it's designed around late braking into the corner, and then what I do with the front geometry is I make the car turn. So once you do the late braking, the car will rotate very easily and quickly, and it's actually designed for late apex. Once you get the car rotated, then what I do with the roll planes is you're able to get the power down a lot sooner. In essence, with a Mustang, when you lower the car, the roll center, the point the car wants to roll around, both front and the rear. The front is very low, the rear is very high. So what I do is I bring the front roll center up and bring the rear roll center down, so instead of the car wanting to jack itself up going around a corner, it gets much flatter. So by being flatter, you get the power sooner, you don't have to wait for the axle to settle, and you actually get to the power before the apex. So in essence, we've made the straightaway longer by braking later, we've made the corner shorter by making the car rotate well, and then we've made the next straightaway longer by getting to the power sooner. So that's what makes this suspension so unique. Nobody else in the aftermarket attacks the suspension from this angle. Okay, in the previous AGS suspension systems, I really had to make a lot of changes to get the geometry we're looking for. I can never quite get there just because of the basic architecture. With S197 that came out in 2005, what Ford did it was like a gift from God. By going to the parallel front control arms, I no longer had to mess with the K-member to actually get the geometry I'm looking for. So what I've done is I've built all the geometry changes just in the control arm module, which means that somebody could just put a control arm on and get the full benefit of a Kenny Brown AGS suspension. Of course, adding the K-member drops a little weight. It's actually stronger than factory, and it also, but it's just a little bit more geometry in, but it's not necessary. And when they went to the 3-link in the back, previously, Mustang had a double splayed 4-link, so it was self-centering, but the control arms were going in different angles. Creates a lot of bind issues. I mean, it was still 1979 Fairmont, no matter how you cut it. But going to the 3-link, well, that takes me back to my old Trans Am days when I used to do Trans Am cars, and 3-links are very easy to adjust geometry. So it made my geometry adjustment very simple at the back, and with the something else that I do that other people don't is you'll see on some like squat brackets and things that have multiple adjustments for guys. Over the years working with people, the fewer adjustments you can give them, the better they're going to be, because then they can concentrate on driving and not adjusting the car. So all the geometry adjustment is already built in for 1.5 inch lower ride height. So it's preset between the geometry I get out of the upper control arm and the squat brackets at the back. It gives me the instant center. It's the best compromise for overall handling that I've had over the years. Now, certainly if we're building a true race car, we want more adjustment for different tracks, but for the average guy, this will take them to the grocery store, you can do a track day, or you can go to the drag strip on the weekend. It works for all applications. And then the other unique thing is the rear roll center, wherever the panner bar crosses the center line of the axle, is the roll center. And in Mustangs, it's pretty high, it's mid-axle, pretty high off the ground. Now, getting back to the old Trans Am days with 3-links, to get the roll center low, we put the Watts link on the bottom of the diff, because wherever the center line, the pivot point of the Watts link becomes the roll center, and if it's mounted horizontal, you're still mid-axle. So we put the Watts link on the bottom of the diff to get the roll center at the very bottom of the differential. Well, so we do the same principle from Trans Am cars. So I take the panner bar, we actually have brackets that lower it down to the very bottom of the differential. So that's how we bring the rear roll center down. So rear roll center down, front roll center up, the cars are flatter. In fact, we rarely use the rear sway bar because we don't need it anymore, because the sway bar is there as axle rolls, different from the body roll. They use a torsion, a sway bar is a torsion bar, to try to control the axle and get it to settle back down as the car rolls up. Well, we've done that mechanically by not letting the car roll, so for the most part we don't need a rear sway bar, which is why it works so well in the Shelbys with all that power. It sort of softens the rear end and gives it better bite because we've got all the roll center so much lower. So that, it's I guess it's the thinking man's suspension, but it's for the driving man. Okay, all that's pretty technical. At the end of the day, okay, what does it do for me, the driver? Well, first of all, it takes the drama out. Mustangs are historically a drama-driven car. The back is loose, the front won't turn. By taking the drama out, the car becomes more manageable, easier to drive. This suspension, if you just drive to the grocery store, you're going to want to take the long way and the windiest road you can find, because the car is just so planted and feels so good. If you're going to a track day, it's going to make you look like a hero, because you can drive in later, the car is far more stable, and you can pass people, you can just really close up the people under braking, and basically it's a hero-driven suspension. And whether you're on the street, on the track, and it even works on drag strip, it's designed to make it easier for the driver and make it a much more manageable, improve the driver experience. It just works. And for more information, you can find us at www.kennybrown.com, not too hard to remember, and also Facebook, Kenny Brown Performance. And one of our sayings is control is power. And historically, over the years when we've done our track cars, we've had cars that have had less horsepower than almost anything on track, yet it's the fastest car. Because again, if you can get through a corner faster, carry more speed, you don't need a huge motor to get down the straightaway. So the real speed on the track or the street actually comes from the chassis and suspension. And the easiest way to kind of give you a good example is, if you ever watch a NASCAR race, how many times they lift the hood to adjust the carburetor to make the car go faster during the race? It's always about adjusting tire pressure, adjusting chassis, put a little wedge in, take a little wedge out, lower the bar. So all the speed is in the chassis. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a big motor to go fast. And if you don't have to spend a lot of money on a big motor, then your motor's going to run and not brake all the time, so you get to drive more.